There are moments in life when you feel like nothing is moving, when every door you knock on stays closed, and every prayer you whisper seems to fade into silence. You start to wonder, did God forget about me? But I came to tell you, no, He hasn't forgotten you. In fact, He's been preparing something behind the scenes that's about to shock you. You're standing at the edge of divine favor so great, so unexpected, that it will shift everything around you. What God is about to do in your life will not be gradual. It will be sudden, supernatural, and undeniable. There are moments in life when everything feels quiet. Not the peaceful kind of quiet, but the kind that makes you wonder if heaven has gone silent. You pray, but there's no echo. You work, but see little fruit. You believe, yet the results seem delayed. In that silence, doubt whispers, maybe it's over. But what if that silence isn't absence? What if it's set up? What if God is orchestrating something so extraordinary, so beyond your imagination, that He's keeping it hidden until the appointed moment? You are not forgotten. You are in the season of divine surprise. Often works in mystery because His favor isn't meant to be predictable. When you think you figured out His ways, He shifts the path, not to confuse you, but to lead you into something greater. This is the season where what looks ordinary will suddenly carry divine power. What looks like an ending will turn into a beginning. What feels like a loss will reveal itself as positioning. Because God doesn't just bless you, He surprises you with His blessing. Think about this. The greatest breakthroughs in Scripture didn't arrive with announcement or warning. They came wrapped in impossibility. Abraham was old, Sarah was barren, yet the promise still stood. Joseph was in prison, forgotten by men, but remembered by heaven. David was tending sheep when God called him to be king. Every one of them reached a point where their situation said, "It's over," but God whispered, "Now watch me work." That's how divine surprise operates. It appears when your logic fails. It steps in when your strength runs out. It moves when all you have left is faith. When God decides to release His favor, He doesn't check your resume. He checks your heart. He looks for those who still believe in the dark, who still praise when nothing makes sense, who still trust when every door is closed. Those are the ones who experience the shock of divine intervention. Because faith isn't just believing God can. It's resting in the assurance that He will, even when you don't know how or when. You may be standing in a season that feels stagnant, but I tell you, it's not stillness, it's incubation. Something is forming beneath the surface. God is working in the unseen realm, aligning opportunities, shifting hearts, and preparing a moment that will reveal His glory through your life. You think you're waiting, but heaven is actually positioning. You think nothing is happening, but everything is being prepared. Sometimes God delays the visible so that when the breakthrough comes, no one, not even you, can take credit for it. You'll look back and say, "It wasn't my effort. It wasn't my plan. It wasn't my connection. It was His favor." Divine surprise carries that fingerprint. It humbles you and glorifies Him. This is why you can't lose hope now. Just because your current reality doesn't match your faith doesn't mean your faith is wrong. It means your story isn't finished. God has a habit of revealing His favor at the least expected time. He chooses the midnight hour to open prison doors, the final watch of the night to part the sea, the moment after failure to release destiny. That's how He works, because divine surprise requires divine timing. So don't rush the process. Don't despise the waiting. What feels like delay is actually divine precision. God is preparing people you haven't met yet, creating paths you haven't walked yet, and setting the stage for your favor to be undeniable. When it happens, it will feel sudden, but it won't be random. It will be the manifestation of every prayer, every tear, every act of faith you've sown in the dark. You are entering a season where the same people who overlooked you will watch God elevate you. The same doors that stayed closed will swing open without warning. The same situations that felt like defeat will transform into testimonies. And when it happens, you'll realize God was never silent. He was strategic. So lift your eyes again. Reignite your faith. Expect the unexpected, because the God you serve delights in divine surprises. He's not just going to bless you. He's about to shock you with His favor. There comes a point in every believer's journey where reason reaches its limit. You've prayed, planned, calculated, and done everything that makes sense, yet nothing changes. It's in that moment you face a divine invitation to step beyond logic and walk by faith. Faith is not the denial of reality. It is the conviction that there is a higher reality at work. It is trusting that God's promise is truer than your present condition. Logic says it's impossible. Faith whispers, watch what God will do. Faith beyond human logic is not comfortable. It's not predictable. It requires you to stand on nothing but the word of God when everything around you says, give up. It's believing for rain when the sky is still clear. It's building an ark when there's never been a flood. It's walking toward the Red Sea when it's still closed. Faith beyond logic dares to look foolish for a moment to be proven right in eternity. You see, human reasoning loves control. It wants to understand before it obeys, to see before it believes. But faith reverses the order. It believes before it sees. That's why those who walk by faith often feel misunderstood. The world says, be realistic, but faith says, be expectant. The world says, prepare for disappointment, but faith says, prepare for fulfillment. Logic calculates probability. Faith creates possibility. When you move in faith beyond logic, you don't deny your circumstances. You just refuse to let them dictate your destiny. The doctor may give a report, the bank may show a number, the door may look locked, but faith says that's not the final word. Because faith always listens to what heaven says over what earth shows. In Scripture, the greatest miracles always began with illogical instructions. God told Abraham to leave his homeland without telling him the destination. He told Gideon to fight an army of thousands with just 300 men. He told Peter to throw his net on the other side of the boat after a whole night of catching. Nothing. He told the widow to pour oil into empty jars when she barely had enough for one meal. None of it made sense until obedience met divine power. Then the illogical became undeniable. Faith beyond logic doesn't require you to understand. It requires you to trust. When God gives a word, He's not asking for your analysis. He's asking for your agreement. The moment you say, yes, Lord, I believe, something in the unseen realm begins to shift. Heaven responds not to logic, but to faith. Sometimes God deliberately places you in situations where reason cannot help you, just so that your faith can grow. When everything seems out of control, it's not punishment, it's promotion. God is stretching your faith to a new dimension because the next level of your life requires a new level of trust. You cannot step into divine favor with human logic. You must step with spiritual sight. It's easy to believe when things make sense. It's easy to have faith when everything is lining up. But true faith is proven when nothing aligns. When your eyes see failure, but your spirit says victory. That's where miracles are born. Because faith is not about ignoring facts. It's about believing that God is greater than the facts. There will always be a tension between what your mind understands and what your heart believes. In those moments, choose to believe. Choose to stand firm. Choose to speak the promise even when you can't see progress. Every time you act on faith, heaven takes notice. Every time you obey without understanding, you move closer to your breakthrough. Maybe right now your situation defies explanation. Maybe people have told you it's over, but faith beyond human logic says, it's not over until God says it's over. The same God who made a way through the sea, who raised the dead, who multiplied loaves and fish, is still the same today. He's not bound by science, reason, or circumstance. He is the Lord who specializes in the impossible. So stop asking, how will it happen? And start declaring, it will happen. Stop analyzing and start agreeing with what God has already spoken. Your faith doesn't need to understand, it just needs to stand. Because when faith collides with divine favor, the impossible bows. The moment you step beyond logic, you step into miracle territory. That's when heaven says, now I can move. There is a kind of favor that doesn't just bless you, it transforms everything connected to you. It doesn't stop with your success. It spills over into the lives of those around you. When God releases divine favor, it's never meant to remain contained. His favor is contagious. It multiplies influence, expands reach, and turns one life into a living testimony that points others to His greatness. When favor touches your life, it's not about being noticed or praised, it's about being positioned. God's favor is not random, it is strategic. He places His hand upon your life so that through you, others may see what His power can do. You become a vessel of impact, a channel through which heaven flows into earth. That's why divine favor always carries a purpose beyond personal gain. It's designed to multiply, to turn one seed of blessing into a field of influence. Look at the story of Joseph. He was favored by God, but that favor didn't just elevate him, it saved an entire nation. He went from a pit to a palace, not because he was lucky, but because his faithfulness attracted divine favor that multiplied. Everywhere he went, Potiphar's house, the prison, the throne, favor followed him. And wherever favor went, transformation happened. That's what divine favor does. It creates ripples of change far beyond the person who carries it. When God favors you, even your mistakes become part of his strategy. The things that were meant to limit you become the very things that launch you. The rejection, the delay, the misunderstanding, all of it becomes soil for divine growth. Because favor doesn't depend on people's approval, it depends on God's purpose. The moment he decides to favor you, no one can stop it and no one can contain it. But here's the secret. Favor is not about fame. It's about faithfulness. God doesn't multiply influence through pride, but through humility. The more you surrender to him, the more he can trust you with influence. When he sees that you will use your platform to lift his name, not your own, he expands it. He enlarges your territory because he knows your heart will carry his message, not your ego. Divine favor doesn't just elevate you. It elevates everyone attached to you. When you walk in God's favor, your family feels it, your workplace feels it, your community feels it. You start to shift atmospheres without even trying. People around you begin to experience breakthroughs, not because of what you say, but because of what you carry. That's how powerful divine favor is. It turns your presence into a doorway for others to encounter God's goodness. And that's what makes this kind of favor different. It doesn't end when you're blessed. It begins there. True favor compels you to give, to serve, to uplift. It reminds you that you're blessed to be a blessing. That's why the ones who walk in multiplied favor never hold tightly to what they have. They understand that giving doesn't deplete favor, it multiplies it. The more you pour out, the more heaven pours in. You see, God never intended his favor to stay small. He wants to use it to touch nations, to change generations, to leave legacies. That's why he allows you to go through seasons of testing before promotion, to shape your character, so you can carry greater influence without losing your humility. The higher the platform, the deeper the foundation must be. Sometimes people will look at you and wonder how you got where you are. They'll say, you don't have the connections, the background, or the qualifications. But favor doesn't check credentials. It chooses hearts. It lifts those the world overlooks. It promotes those who stay faithful in obscurity. And when God raises you, it's not to make you famous. It's to make him visible through you. You may be in a season where it feels like no one sees your effort, where your faithfulness goes unnoticed. But remember, every act of obedience is a seed of favor. Keep serving, keep giving, keep trusting, because when God decides it's time, your influence will multiply suddenly. The tables will turn so fast that those who once ignored you will now be drawn to the light you carry. And when that moment comes, stay anchored. Let your success point people upward, not inward. Because the more glory you give to God, the more glory he'll release through you. Every season of your life has been leading to this divine moment. Every tear, every unanswered prayer, every quiet night where you wondered if God still saw you, all of it has been preparation for a release of favor that will exceed your understanding. You didn't come this far just to survive. You came this far to see what happens when heaven decides to intervene. You're about to step into a dimension of God's favor that shocks everyone who thought they knew your limits. You've walked through silence, but silence never meant separation. You've faced delay, but delay never meant denial. You've endured waiting, but waiting was the womb of your miracle. Because God doesn't rush what he values. He molds it, he matures it, and when the time is right, he reveals it. You are not behind. You are right on schedule for divine surprise. You see, this is how God works. He hides greatness in ordinary moments. He takes the overlooked and makes them overcomers. He takes the rejected and makes them rulers. He takes the silent ones and gives them songs the world will one day sing. That's the beauty of divine favor. It doesn't ask for permission and it doesn't need an introduction. When God's hand is upon you, it will open doors that your resume never could, and it will place you in rooms that your name alone could never reach. But favor without faith is incomplete. Faith is what activates favor. It's what pulls heaven's promises into earthly reality. Faith is what makes you step forward when nothing in your logic agrees. Faith is what makes you say, I still believe, when the evidence says, it's over. When you step beyond reason and into faith, you enter the atmosphere where miracles happen, the realm where divine laws overrule human limitations. That's why God sometimes lets everything else fail first. So when his favor arrives, you'll know exactly who did it. You'll know it wasn't coincidence, it wasn't luck, it wasn't timing, it was him. And when that realization hits, your entire perspective shifts. You stop worrying about who's against you, and you start focusing on who's for you. You stop trying to explain yourself, and you start walking confidently in what he's already declared. And this favor, this incredible, undeniable favor, it's not just coming to comfort you, it's coming to commission you. It's not just about what you receive, it's about what you release. God's favor is meant to multiply influence. When he blesses you, he's blessing through you. Your life becomes a channel of transformation, a living testimony that speaks louder than any sermon. When people look at your journey, they won't just see your success, they'll see his signature written all over it. So if you're in a valley, don't curse the valley. It's there that God builds your roots deep enough to handle the weight of future favor. If you're in obscurity, don't despise it. It's there that God develops your integrity before he expands your influence. Every hidden season is holy ground. It's where favor grows quietly until the time it must be revealed. And when that revelation comes, when the heavens open over your life, it won't be subtle. It will be sudden. The same people who doubted you will witness what divine acceleration looks like. The same environment that once restricted you will no longer be able to contain you. Because when God's favor arrives, it doesn't just lift you, it launches you. So prepare yourself, not with fear, but with faith, not with hesitation, but with expectation. The favor coming your way is not small, it's generational. It will touch your family, your work, your calling, your future. It will multiply until the echo of your obedience reaches people you may never meet. This is your season to believe beyond logic, to expect the divine surprise, and to walk boldly in multiplying favor. You don't need to chase opportunities. They will begin to chase you. You don't need to force open doors. They will open because your name has been spoken in rooms you haven't entered yet. All of heaven is aligning to show the world what happens when a surrendered heart meets divine power. You are the living proof that God still honors faith, still performs miracles, still turns ordinary lives into extraordinary stories of grace. So lift your head, straighten your shoulders. The waiting is over. The shifting has begun. God said, I'm about to shock you with my favor. And when he speaks, creation moves.